manufacturing firms were hard to reconcile with the picture painted by contemporary labor process theory and the critical scholarship on lean. Workers were generally interested in the success of their organizations and in doing their part to ensure that success, though often deeply skeptical of management. Managers in general were not focused on, let alone preoccupied with, labor control or work speed up, and in many cases were focused on cross-training their workers and including them in problem-solving and decision-making around process improvement. To be sure, there was labor management conflict, but this was generally about competing visions of efficiency and contestation over changing workplace routines, not about control, autonomy, or the pace of work. As I continued reading Marx, I found much that was not reflected in the contributions of Braverman, Gordon, Edwards, and Burawoy, and I developed an interpretation different from theirs. I learned much from contemporary labor process theory, including the work of Peter Armstrong, Rick Delbridge, Tony Elgar, Andrew Friedman, Theo Nichols, Chris Smith, Vicky Smith, Phil Taylor, Paul Thompson, Steve Vallis, and Chris Warhurst, but continued to find its theoretical core, the control resistance framework, of limited use for understanding my observations. In my search for relevant theory to understand and analyze my findings, I read widely across the sociology of work, human resource management and employment relations, organization theory, institutional theory, and social psychology, economics, economic sociology, and comparative political economy. I am delighted to present this book, which offers a synthetic theoretical framework and research program for the analysis of labor management and work organization. Although my case study is on contemporary American manufacturing, the framework, which I call organizational political economy, is explicitly developed for comparative and historical research on organizations across sectors and countries. The foundation is historical materialism, including a classical Marxist labor process theory and a stage theory of capitalist development informed by regulation theory, into which I integrate the organization theoretic concepts of institutional logics and organizational fields, managerial satisficing, and operational routines. The theory proposes that the Western world entered a post-Fordist stage in the 1990s, after more than 2 decades of organizational experimentation and institutional change. Within this stage, lean management and worker empowerment have been institutionalized as logics of best practice in the manufacturing field and beyond. However, managers face contradictory pressures between ensuring labor discipline, so workers produce output of sufficient quantity and quality, versus empowering labor, so workers can contribute to problem-solving and decision-making in service of flexibility, continuous improvement, and organizational learning. In the 15 years since the data were collected, the core theoretical propositions have been corroborated. Lean production remains the undisputed model of global best practice in manufacturing and has spread to a range of service sectors. Conflicting strategies emphasizing standardization or discretion, de-skilling or upskilling, manual or cognitive labor are observed in a broad range of occupations, including production, social services, education, healthcare, administrative support, and software. The book presents evidence that within manufacturing, the common strategy of using workers exclusively for routine